Hey folks, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture and Happy New Year. Hopefully you had a good time last night. Maybe I should lower my voice a little bit because a few of you might be still dealing with the good time you had last night. Well, we're going to jump into Dad's Den in 2025 with a little review of a great old TV special. So back in the 60s and 70s, Rankin-Bass produced numerous holiday-oriented stop-motion films and cartoons. And some of them are rightly called classics. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, of course, sort of started it all off. You had Frosty the Snowman, which I think was their first foray into cartoon animation. Santa Claus is Coming to Town was like my personal favorite as a kid. These things were all played, once a year, and it was always a big deal when they were going to be on. But when I grew up, I discovered that there were a lot of Rankin-Bass productions that I really didn't have any memory of. They didn't necessarily get played over and over and over again. Some of them were released before I was born or, when I was still really, really little and not really aware of things. And some of those have become kind of a big deal, after the fact. Year Without a Santa Claus is a good example of that. And that's something, in my house we watch every year. Well, today, for New Year's, day, it's not New Year's Eve now, I want to highlight one of the less known films that Rankin-Bass did that I find surprisingly creative, cool, fun. Rudolph's Shiny New Year. We begin in the North Pole and Santa's palace, stately Santa Manor. And this is meant to be like a direct sequel to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And so, of course, it starts with a little bit of a song, music for the credits, sung by Red Skelton. So we get into it on the same foggy night where Rudolph forged his legend. Santa, and you can see this design is based more on the sort of revamped Santa Claus that you got from Year Without a Santa Claus, that you got in A Santa Claus is Coming to Town, rather than the Santa that we got in that first Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And he is here voiced by Paul Frees instead of Mickey Rooney. But he gets a note from Father Time. And turns out that Happy, the New Year baby, is missing. And if he's not there at the stroke of midnight for the new year, well, there won't be a new year. It will be December 31st forever, which means Christmas Vacation will never end, which actually probably sounded pretty good to a lot of kids. So Santa decides he needs to send out a search party, and who's going to be able to see through all this snow and this fog? Oh, yes. Who else but Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? So his mission is going to be to find the New Year baby, and he's got a week, actually less than a week, to do it. So out Rudolph goes into the storm, and now we roll the full credits and intro of Rudolph's Shiny New Year, which came out in, or was first aired, I should say, December 10th, 1976. It is told and sung by Red Skelton. Includes the talents of Frank Gorshin, also Maury Amsterdam, Hal Peary, Paul Frees, Billy Richards, Don Messick, and Iris Rayner, with music and lyrics by Johnny Marks. There's some nice little songs in this one, written by Romeo Mueller. And I give him a lot of credit because, where some of the past stuff was based on an existing song or Santa Claus lore and legends, this is all sort of invented, this one. Mueller had to kind of create this whole universe, so to speak, for Father Time. And he did a really fantastic job with it. And of course, produced and directed by Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass. So Rudolph's first step is going to be visiting Father Time, and he's narrating this story. And the whole point of Father Time in this is that he keeps time moving properly. And most importantly, he makes sure every January 1st that we have a bright, happy new year, which is why he's so worried about baby New Year missing. And you could already see the set design on this thing, and I guess that's the proper term to use for it, is really, really nice. And the color, just beautiful. So Rudolph, heading from the North Pole, first runs into General Ticker, a clockwork soldier. You could see like his head would be the bell on the top of an alarm clock. Really great stuff. And we're already seeing sort of that world building for Father Time. Ticker is voiced by Paul Frees with a sort of Southern accent, and he speaks entirely in rhyme. And now eventually they make it to this great desert called the Sands of Time. And how awesome is that? I mean, it's almost like, is there a great desert, that you could walk to from the North Pole? No. So it's like they've stepped, into another dimension or something. Now, Father Time's castle is on the other side of the desert, directly beneath the Christmas star. It's a very long journey, but Father Time has also sent a camel to help carry them across this desert, and his name is Quarter Past Five, the Great Quarter Past Five. So halfway across the desert, they run into the villain of this piece, a giant vulture called Eon the Terrible, also voiced by Paul Frees. And I love how they give him like a wart on his nose, even though it's a beak, to cement that he's evil, because evil people have warts on their noses. So he chases them for a bit and then decides, no, there's better pickings than these guys, and he leaves. So this is just the intro of the character. There's going to be more of him to come. And General Ticker realizes that what Eon is really searching for is happy. It's the baby New Year. So they're really in a race and they've got to hurry. The thing with Eon is he can only live to be one eon old. And at that point, he turns into ice and snow. So he is really motivated to stop time. He stops time, then he can live forever. So they soon make it to Father Time's castle. And again, we get a little song here. And also great design. It strikes me that this film, kind of like Frank L. Baum's Oz stories, is a fairy tale with this very American perspective to it. You see, for example, the electric, scrolling news thing on top of the castle, like you would get in Times Square. So it's kind of looks like a traditional European fairy tale castle, but it's got this American touch to it. So now we get our meeting between Father Time and Rudolph. And again, great design. You notice that the two guards look sort of like grandfather clocks. Now, Father Time explains that how they make the change from the old year to the new year, each December 31st. And so we learn that he is the former baby New Year grown old. And so it's like an old king stepping down and a new one taking his place and getting the crown. And this whole process is told in a song sung by Red Skelton, as we see him starting as a baby in January and then walking through the course of the year and getting older. It's a really neat sequence. And it's also this really nice song about making every moment in your life count, because time keeps on moving and you do not get to go back and do it over again. And don't I know that? All this gray in my beard. And I also love this idea that time is sort of compressed for Father Time, that he lives this really long life in the course of what seems like a single year to us. So again, it's this sort of like extra dimensional stuff. There's a lot in here, I think, maybe to inspire folks who write fantasy or play like fantasy, role-playing games and stuff. There's some really neat concepts. So at midnight, the magic diamond is lowered to signify the end of the old year. And here again, you see, just like the apple in Times Square lowering, this is an Americanism applied to this cosmic fairy tale. So what's the real problem here? Well, the problem is that Happy, the baby New Year, has comically huge ears. And anytime people see it, they laugh. And this hurts his feelings. And this is why he ran away from home. And people don't mean to laugh, but they just can't help it. And of course, Rudolph understands what that feels like to be made fun of. So he's simpatico with Happy. But he's going to go out there and find him and see if he can't help him. And Father Time mentions to him that Happy always wanted to see the archipelago of last years. And that might be where he went. Now, the archipelago is a fantastic concept. Each year, as each year passes, it retires to an island in this archipelago. And on that island, it stays that year forever. So you have, years like 1492, 1776, and obviously, technically you'd have 1774 and, 1775 as well. And it actually probably means there's an island like where the trench warfare of World War I never ends, which is actually pretty horrific, but we're focused on the positive here in this particular, cartoon. So the archipelago is located as far north as possible, like north of the North Pole. So again, we're getting into, something kind of metaphysical here. And it's hidden behind a permanent icy fog. So at the edge of the sands of time, Rudolph will find the Sea of Auld Lang Syne. And there he will also find a sundial whose arm points towards the archipelago. And we get another song here about turning back the years. And while Rudolph is singing and sailing along, we get this reminder that Eon is still out there and on the trail. And just as he's about to swoop down on Rudolph on his little boat, a mighty tail appears, comes up out of the water, and we meet Big Ben, the whale, voiced by Hal Peary, or Harold Peary, who played the great Gildersleeve on radio back in the day. One of the greatest voices ever, period. A great character, a very funny show. It's kind of a gentle family sitcom. It's really great. It's a spinoff of Fibber McGee and Molly. Anyways, so at this point, Rudolph's adventure party is starting to form. So he's sailing with Big Ben, and their first destination is the island where old 1 million BC retired. And dude, the design work on this island is just great. So 1 million BC, or OM for short, is this crazy caveman who's voiced by Maury Amsterdam. And of course, Maury Amsterdam, best known from the Dick Van Dyke Show, perfect voice for the character he's playing. So with OM, we get another song. It's Raining Sunshine, which involves dinosaurs as the backup singers, and they have like the voices of children, and it's just bizarre and fun. Well, they find that indeed Happy had been there, and he had made many friends. But at some point, his hat fell off, and all the dinosaurs laughed at him, and he got his feelings hurt, and he left. And so we're going to see this story play out several times. And of course, one also wonders exactly how Happy was getting from island to island, being just a baby. I don't know, I guess he had a raft or something like that. Any rate, OM joins the team, and off they head, and they're going now to the island of Old 1023, as in the year 1023. It's a medieval island with knights, shining armor, dragons, princesses. It's where all the fairy tales live. 1023 is voiced by Frank Gorshin, who does this great job. He says everything like this, and there's like an echo or metallic echo because of his helmet. Really good stuff. So they go searcheth the island for Happy, and we get this song about fairy tales sung by Red Skelton through the whole thing. And the little fairy tale set pieces are really awesome. I mean, the attention put into them for how short they really appear on screen. My favorite thing is Humpty Dumpty, because Paul Frees does the voice, And he basically gives him like a pirate voice, which we've all heard from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Walt Disneyland and I guess Disney World as well. Why a pirate voice for the egg? I don't know, but I loved it anyways. And so here we see like Rumpelstiltskin and them looking through these. So, but I mean, look at the attention to detail on that. I mean, it's really fantastic. And it probably doesn't appear on screen for more than a few seconds. So they really put a lot of effort into this film. Well, eventually they come to the house of the three bears and find out that Happy had been there and he and Baby Bear had been friends, but again, hat had to come off. There was laughter and he left and Baby Bear feels really bad about it. And this point, we also get Red Skelton doing his mean little kid voice as Baby Bear. One thing you get from Rankin-Bass is a lot of old time radio, frankly. I think one of them, I don't remember one of them has Jim Jordan, who played Fibber McGee. I think he does a voice in one of them, but you get a lot of these voice actors from the past, especially on radio, popping up in these things, which makes sense because it's stop motion animation. So it's all just voice work. And it even gets worse because they discover that Eon has captured Happy. And so the boys give chase, but it turns out that Eon's just a little bit quicker than Big Ben. But the last minute, Big Ben sends out this jet of water, knocking Happy off Eon's back. And Happy manages to glide down using his hat, but this wind suddenly kicks up and blows him out of sight. And man, they only have like 2 days left now to get him back to Father Time's castle. Well, the wind takes him to the island of 1776, where he meets Sev. And every day here is the 4th of July. And look, no bias here from me. I know I'm an American, but just speaking with no bias at all. Obviously, this is the best island in the entire archipelago. I'll fight you for that. At any rate, they have the big parade and everything is really going well. But at a certain point, Happy has to take his hat off to honor the flag. Boom, the ears come out. People laugh. And our boys arrive just a second too late. And when they do sort of finally see him again, he has been recaptured by Eon, who's convinced him that he's his only real friend. Now they're going to have to chase him to Eon's lair. And so this is where Rudolph's nose is going to come in handy because it's nighttime and they need his nose to cut through the darkness. So Eon lives on this icy little island called No Name, north of the North Pole, where the sun never shines. So if anybody ever told you to stick something where the sun don't shine, this is what they were talking about. They weren't being rude. They were just referring to Eon's island. So at this point, the boys are feeling pretty low. Rudolph sings them this song about having a little faith in him, and they brighten up. And they finally reach the island. And Big Ben's tail clock strikes 11:30. They're running out of time. So as they sneak up to Eon's nest, he spots them. And it's really unfortunate they hadn't had time to like stop in an island with ninjas on it or something. They would have come in handy. And Eon gives out this loud squawk that causes this snowy avalanche to carry the heroes away. And he boasts to Happy that was his last hope. And now he's going to have to live here with Eon forever as his slave. But the good guys aren't done yet. Rudolph's nose melts the snow, the little snowball that he's stuck in. And he heads off on his own. It soon reaches the nest where Eon is just snoring away. And Rudolph tells Happy his own story in animation that looks pretty similar to the Frosty the Snowman cartoon. But he tells his whole story about being made fun of and all this other kind of stuff. And the moral of the story is that you shouldn't give a crap what other people think because they're all idiots. Of course, they put it a little bit nicer than that, but that's my own take on the story. But basically, he says, look, people laugh because your ears make them happy. So don't get so mad about it. It's cool, man. You're making people happy with your ears. Don't worry about it. And it does the trick. But Happy, now kind of, yelling with glee, wakes up Eon. Rudolph gets an idea. He says, Happy, take your hat off for good. And he does, the ears blowing out, and Eon starts laughing. And this maybe is the first time in his life that he's ever laughed. And he's laughing so hard that he falls out of his nest, knocks Rudolph's friends out of their snowballs. And because of all that laughter, it builds up so much warmth inside that now he can never turn into ice and snow, and thus he does not have to stop time. So they manage sort of a happy ending, even for the villain. But the clock now starts to strike midnight, the first bong. And how could they possibly get back to the castle before the 12th bong? Well, it helps to have friends in high places. So Santa arrives, throws the sleigh into hyperdrive, and they make it back to the castle, as they say, without a bong to spare. And I'm sure that line got a bunch of laughs from, teenagers in 1976. So the new year, 19 Wonderful, has arrived, and the crowd goes wild. And if you look through there, you'll notice a lot of the figures that were used a couple years earlier in the Year Without a Santa Claus. And we get another song from, Father New Year. And so begins the reign of Happy. And he immediately turns into a tyrant and destroys them all. No, that doesn't happen. Because it is a happy new year. And I hope all you folks out there have a happy 2025. And if you're watching this in a different year, I hope that's a happy year for you as well. And may it be shiny too. And before we go, one more credit to look at. Paul Coker Jr. did the design. Fantastic job on this thing. So folks, let me know what you think. Is this one that you've watched that you like? Is this new to you? If you have any questions, please let me know. I think they did a really fantastic job with this one. Great design, good voice work. The songs are cute. I don't know that any of the songs in this, are say good enough to become standards. I mean, I guess they didn't really because it's been around for a while, but they're good. I think your kids would have fun with this one. I think adults can have fun with it too, just because of how creative it is. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Maybe think of subscribing to this channel, sharing this with a friend. That would be really groovy. In the meantime, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there, and I will hopefully see you again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Let's get going on 2025. Bye-bye.